Join us now as we bring you the exciting and adventurous music from artists who created a sonic alternative to the drab and the mundane and push the boundaries of country music further than ever before.
Well, they say there's no more outlaws, but that's a downright lie. 'Cause here I am, guitar in hand, and I'm here to testify.
Artists who dared to do it their own way, without the corporate interference of record company executives chasing the almighty dollar.
The outlaw's still alive.
These are the icons of outlaw country.
And for those who somehow lost their way or think we've seen our better day, this old outlaw's here to say we're alive.
Now, here's John Wesley Karson.
Well, thank you, Harry. Greetings and welcome to the Icons of Outlaw Country. And I got a message from a listener the other day that I want to share with you. This came from Barbara in Bakersfield, who writes, I love your show, and I'm so glad that I found it on the radio. And I know that the outlaw country movement was a bit of a good old boys club, but I was hoping they might play some more music by female artists like Tanya Tucker and Loretta Lynn. Thank you, and keep up the good work. Well, Barbara, first of all, thank you so much for listening to our little show, and I agree with you. We should include more female artists. In fact, that's what I want to do right now. Start off today's show with Tanya Tucker from her 2009 album, My Turn. Here's Wind Me Up on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
I'm the center of attention in this barroom, 'cause I've got the biggest heartache of the year. And each night those swinging doors reach out for me and draw me in, 'cause they know each night that I'll come back to wind me up again. Wind me up, turn me on and watch me cry for you. Lately drinking warm red wine is all I wanna do, and I never know how tight I'll wind me up till I walk in. But I don't care, 'cause I'll be back to wind me up again. I'd like to thank the men who raised the grapes way out in California, and I'm hoping this will be their biggest year, 'cause scarlet water's all that's left to keep me hanging on, and that's why I'm trying to wind me up each day and night next year. Wind me up, turn me on and watch me cry for you. Lately drinking warm red wine is all I wanna do, and I never know how tight I'll wind me up till I walk in. But I don't care, 'cause I'll be back to wind me up again. Hell, I don't care, 'cause I'll be back to wind me up again.
That's Tanya Tucker's Wind Me Up on the Icons of Outlaw Country. You know, I started in radio. I started my career way back in the 1970s as a high school kid in Texas. And the first thing they teach you in disc jockey school is that you never, under any circumstances, ever play two female singers in a row. Never. It's not done. Research shows listeners will not tolerate it. It will offend everyone and could be a career-ending move, so don't even think about doing it. So I'm going to do it. Here's Loretta Lynn's Don't Come Home a Drinkin' If You Got Lovin' on Your Mind from 1967 on this edition of the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Well, you thought I'd be waiting up when you came home last night. You'd been out with all the boys and you ended up half-tied. But liquor and love, they just don't mix. Leave the bottle or me behind. And don't come home a drinkin' with lovin' on your mind. No, don't you don't need none of mine. So don't come home a drinking with lovin' on your mind. You never take me anywhere because you're always gone. And many a night I've laid awake and cried here all alone. Then you come in a-kissing on me, it happens every time. No, don't come home a-drinking with lovin' on your mind. No, don't come home a-drinking with lovin' on your mind. Just stay out there on the town and see what you can find. 'Cause if you want that kind of love, well, you don't need none of mine. So don't come home a-drinking with lovin' on your mind. No, don't come home a-drinking with lovin' on your mind.
Every day I tell myself it's temporary, but it's only 'cause she's young that makes her want another man. Even though she makes me feel unnecessary, I've found the way to help me understand. I've got this drinking thing to keep from thinking things about where you've been, who you've been with, what you've done. And it's a lonely thing, but it's the only thing to keep a foolish man in love hanging on. If I wait up at home, I'll only ask her questions. She'd probably tell the truth, so I don't even ask. So I sit here on this bar stool, feeling helpless, and I wonder just how long a man can last. I've got this drinking thing to keep from thinking things about where you've been, who you've been with, and what you've done. And it's a lonely thing, but it's the only thing to keep a foolish man in love hanging on. I've got this drinking thing to keep from thinking things.
Where's the rain ruins my alibi? I'm down to telling you a red-eyed night. It's not that sun-bright path that calls me from my home. It's that fine Backsliders wine. My mama sings loud in my memory. Oh, sun don't wear no black eyes shine. Fight for your right, but don't just fight for right. Do not drink backsliders wine. But I took myself for a strong and loving soul, till I found myself face down on the barroom floor, crying, my God, what has become of me? They're not drink backsliders wine no more. Backsliders wine. God, do not drink backsliders wine.
While the radio guys in the New York City high-rises are going over their balance sheets,
Monday, 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 always Sunday, in the rich man's world.
we're trying to decide which great song to play next. These are the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You're the only friend there has ever been that didn't do me wrong. Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You can kill this pain, it's driving me insane since my baby's gone. Cigarettes and whiskey, call my shaking hand. I just lost a lover to a one-night stand. Something temporary, too late I had learned. Someone from her past said it couldn't last, a bridge she could burn. Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You're the only friend there has ever been that didn't do me wrong. Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You can kill this pain, it's driving me insane since my baby's gone. Promises were broken, dreams were left to die. Empty words were spoken, tears were in our eyes. Something temporary, those tears will fade away. Do the best you can, help me understand these games that people play. Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You're the only friend there has ever been that didn't do me wrong. Jack Daniels, if you please, knock me to my knees. You can kill this pain, it's driving me insane since my baby's gone. You can kill this pain, it's driving me insane since my baby's gone.
I used to spend my nights out in a bar room. Liquor was the only love I'd known. But you rescued me from reaching for the bottom, and you brought me back from being too far gone. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy, and I stay stoned on your love all the time. I look for love in all the same old places. Found the bottom of the bottle always dry. But when you poured out your heart, I didn't waste it. 'Cause there's nothing like your love to getting me high. You're as smooth as Tennessee whiskey. You're as sweet as strawberry wine. You're as warm as a glass of brandy, and I stay stoned on your love all the time. I stay stoned on your love all the time.
That is Tennessee whiskey, and it is absolutely a country music staple. George Jones's version there from 1983 brought the song into the spotlight after it peaked at number 2 on the charts. But did you know that Tennessee whiskey originally was pitched to George Strait, but he turned it down? So David Allan Coe actually became the first country artist to record it, making it the title track of an album that he released in 1981. And he brought the song to the number 77 spot on the charts, which set the framework for the success that would come across later in years. The song was recorded by George Jones, whose version was released in August of 1983, as the third single from his album Shine On. And ever since then, that song has been a mainstay in every George Jones live concert. He would often substitute the name of whatever city or town they were playing in for Tennessee in the second chorus. In 1985, do you remember when he was at Farm Aid? He performed at the Farm Aid concert, did the Tennessee Whiskey song, and right in the middle of his performance, David Allan Coe comes up on stage, joins him, and they do a duet together. Now, these two country superstars only shared the stage for that one brief moment, but not only did it become a highlight of the Farm Aid concert, it was a highlight of both of their careers. Meanwhile, at George Jones' show in Chattanooga on March 22nd, 2013, he performed Tennessee Whiskey for the last time. He was introducing this song, and Jones spoke a little bit about his life, what a rough life he had lived. And he said, that he hadn't drank or smoked for 17 years. And he said, I know that a lot of you out there don't believe me, but it's true. It happened. And what a wonderful thing to find out everything you've got once you stop drinking. But this, he said, has always been one of my favorite drinking songs. And so George sat down on a stool there on the stage in Chattanooga and just sang his heart out. And although his health was already declining, he gave everything into that performance. And sadly, less than a month later, he's admitted into the hospital for a fever and irregular blood pressure, and sadly passed away a few days after that from hypoxic respiratory failure. He was 81 years of age. Before that, we had David Allan Coe's drinking song, Jack Daniels, If You Please, Backsliders Wine from Jerry Jeff Walker, and Gary Stewart's Drinking Thing. Oh, and by the way, we started the show by breaking a cardinal rule in radio by playing two female artists back to back. And that was suggested by Barbara, one of our listeners here in Bakersfield. Loretta Lynn's Don't Come Home a Drinkin' with Lovin' on Your Mind, which was written by Loretta herself, and Wine Me Up by Tanya Tucker, which I love that song. It was first recorded and released by Fair and Young back in 1969. Speaking of drinking songs and good old George Jones, I reckon we should play one more from the Possum. This is called If the Drinkin' Don't Kill Me, Her Memory Will by George Jones on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Bars are all closed. It's 4 in the morning. I must have shut 'em all down by the shape that I'm in. I lay my head on the wheel and the horn begins honking. The whole neighborhood knows that I'm home drunk again. If drinking don't kill me, her memory will. I can't hold out much longer the way that I feel with the blood from my body. I could start my own still, but if drinking don't kill me, her memory will. These old bones, they move slow, but so sure of their footsteps as I trip on the floor and I lightly touch down. Lord, it's been 10 bottles since I tried to forget her, but the memory still lingers lying here on the ground. And if drinking don't kill me, her memory will. I can't hold out much longer the way that I feel
blood from my body, I could start my own still. But if drinking don't kill me, her memory
Now, don't forget, you can reach out to us with any suggestions you have for the show by sending me an email at johnwesleykarson@gmail.com. That's John Wesley Karson with a K at gmail.com. Or you can message me on Facebook at John Wesley Karson. Now, coming up, we spotlight one of the young guns of outlaw country, and we've got our most wanted outlaw of the week. All that coming right here on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
We know you're broke, busted, skinned, no cash flow until you get paid next Friday. Good thing the Icons of Outlaw Country is free. We'll be right back after these messages. It's all about attitude.
I'd love to spit some beach nut in that dude's eyes and shoot him with my old 45.
Now, it's the Icons of Outlaw Country with John Wesley Karson.
Howdy and welcome back to the Icons of Outlaw Country. Coming up, we've got a future icon of the genre in our Young Guns segment. But first, let's talk about Merle Haggard. Merle was an outlaw before there was an outlaw movement, and not just because he did time. He was a sensitive, thoughtful singer-songwriter with a romantic chip on his shoulder, masculinity, and a rock and roll attitude. By 1980, outlaw country it may have been past its apex, but Merle just carried on the way he always did. This next song is a barn burner that nails the hard swinging improvisational approach of his live shows. In it, Merle is sitting in a bar room, stewing over a woman who doesn't care what he thinks and couldn't change his mind even if she did. And unlike what was the norm in country music studio recordings in those days, he just lets the band go. I mean, a full 3 minutes of this rowdy 4.5 minute track, which is an eternity in country radio, especially in 1980, is stuffed with solo after solo, electric guitar, piano, more guitar, saxophone, more guitar. When they couldn't land on a shorter edit that he liked, Merle just said basically, screw it. Release the song as it is, let the DJs deal with it. Well, guess what? It went to number one. This is I Think I'll Just Sit Here and Drink on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
I could be holding you tonight. I could quit doing wrong and start doing right. You don't care about what I think. Think I'll just stay here and drink. Hey, putting you down won't square the deal. At least you know the way I feel. Hey, take all the money in the bank. Think I'll just stay here and drink. Hey, listen close and you can hear that loud jukebox playing in my ear. Ain't no woman gonna change the way I think. I think I'll just stay here and drink. Yes, sir. That piano. Yes, sir. Hey, hurting me now don't mean a thing. Since love
love ain't here, I don't feel the pain. My mind ain't nothing but a total blank. I think I'll just stay here and drink. Yeah.
I've got a good woman at home who thinks I do no wrong, but sometimes, Lord, she just ain't always around. And you know that's when I fall. Now I can't help myself at all, and I get whiskey bent and hell-bound. Play me some songs about a rambling man, put a cold one in my hand, 'cause you know I love to hear those guitar sounds. But don't you play I'm so lonesome I could cry, 'cause I'll get all balled up inside, and I'll get whiskey bent and hell-bound. Sure enough, about closing time, about stoned out of my mind, and I end up with some honky-tonk special I found. Just as sure as the morning sun comes, thinking of my sweet girl at home, and I need to get whiskey bent and hell-bound. Play me the song about a rambling man, put old Jim Beam in my hand, 'cause you know I still love to get drunk and hear country
Josephus there, getting whiskey bent and hellbound. Now, coming up, we got our young guns of outlaw country. And, buddy, I think you're going to be real impressed with this young man. I'd stick around were I you. Right now, we continue with our drinking songs theme. This is Tompall, Glaser, and Drinking Them Beers on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Last night, I had a little talk with myself, just me and me, man to man. I said, self, I think it's time. I laid it on the line, and I tried my best to make me understand. Drinking them beers, shedding them tears over love that's grown cold, wasting time, yours and mine, and wasted time can make a man grow old. I said, self, you'll ruin your health. They say alcohol will cook the brain. I answered me, that well may be, but you know it sure works good to kill the pain. I had a little talk with myself about an old love affair. I said, self, can't you see, she's killing you and me, and we both know that she don't even care. Drinking them beers, shedding them tears over love that's grown cold, wasting time, yours and mine, and wasted time can make a man go old. I said, self, you'll ruin your health. They say alcohol will cook the brain. I answered me, that well may be, but you know it sure works good to kill the pain. Drinking them beers, shedding them tears, crocodile, oh, her love that's grown cold, wasting time, yours and mine, and wasted time can make a man grow old, a man grow old.
Tompall Glaser and the Glaser Brothers with Drinkin' Them Beers from the 1978 album, The Wonder of It All. Right now, though, it is time to shine our outlaw spotlight on the young guns.
Over 50 years ago, artists like Willie, Waylon, and Christofferson fought back against the country establishment in Music City and forged a new path for country music. Today, their legacy lives on, thanks to a new generation of modern outlaws walking in their footsteps. These are the young guns of outlaw country.
You know, some surnames are fairly common, like Smith or Jones, You could be born into a celebrity family, and provided you keep a low profile for most of your life, there's a darn good chance nobody's ever going to ask you if you're related to a superstar who's got the same last name as you. That is, if your last name was common. Now, if you happen to eventually take up a similar career as that superstar, that might get people more curious. A good case for this would be Whey Jennings. He's the grandson of two country music legends, Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter. Whey Jennings was born and raised in Texas, and according to him, he had a really normal childhood. He did regular kid stuff. He says his grandparents really tried to keep their business and personal lives separate, so he definitely had a typical childhood, with the exception of hanging out backstage at huge concerts. Today, he's writing and performing country music from his home in Texas, and he has a voice that is so reminiscent of his outlaw grandpa, it's almost eerie. Here he is with his latest release, If It Wasn't for the Sinin, on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
I have been ashamed of all my wicked ways. Though I've changed, they still remain from my beginning. I'm 260 days past 30 years of rage, and it feels good to finally be living. But how could I have ever been forgiven if it wasn't for the sinning? If it wasn't for the sinning, I know now I've been committing. I'd never known that I could change my ways. And no, I'm not defending the evil and the wicked, just pointing out it's not too late to change. When I look at my past, I do anything but laugh. I was on a loser's path I thought was winning. I was going nowhere fast, showing everyone my ass, and on myself instead of God I was depending. But how could I have ever been forgiven if it wasn't for the sinning? I'd never known that I could change my ways. And no, I'm not defending the evil and the wicked, just pointing out it's not too late to change. They say that dark returns to light. I'm here to say I think they're right, 'cause God is good and so's the life I'm living. I love my children and my wife, and God has surely blessed our life. And finally, we can stop pretending, 'cause how could we have ever been forgiven if it wasn't for the sinning?
Now here's a special treat for you. 2 young guns for the price of 1. This is The Highwayman by Waylon Jennings' grandson Whey Jennings and Thomas Gabriel, who just happens to be Johnny Cash's grandson.
I was a highwayman, on the coast roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a maiden lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier spent his lifeblood on my blade. Them bastards hung me in the spring of 25, but I am still alive. I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn in New Mexico. I went aloft and furled a mainsail in a blow. And when the yards broke off, they said that I got killed, but I am living still. I was a dam builder across the river deep and wide, where still and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound, but I am still around. I'll always be around and around and around and around and around and around. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thomas Gabriel.
I fly a starship across the universe divide, and when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again, or I may simply be a single drop of rain, but I will remain, and I'll be back again and again and again and again and again and again and again.
Whey Jennings went viral on YouTube with that performance of The Highwayman with Thomas Gabriel, the grandson of Johnny Cash. The tribute to their respective grandfathers' legacies amassed 2.4 million views within just a few months of its release. Whey also honored the birthday of his grandfather with an all-star list of country music heavy hitters that included the likes of Travis Tritt, Creed Fisher, and members of the Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings family, all of them covering various Waylon songs and performing some originals. And I cannot recommend enough searching out Whey Jennings on the internet. Some really good stuff from that young man. And his first name, by the way, is spelled W-H-E-Y. Whey Jennings. And speaking of the Highwayman, I can't think of a better way to close out this hour of the Icons of Outlaw Country than with this track from the 1985 release from the Highwayman album, a collaborative effort from Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson. This is The Last Cowboy Song, written by country music legend Ed Bruce on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year wars. The voices sound sad as they're singing along another piece of America's law.
He rides the feedlot, clerks in a market, on weekends selling tobacco and beer, and his dreams of tomorrow surrounded by fences, but he'll dream tonight of when fences weren't here. He blazed the trail with Lewis and Clark, and eyeball to eyeball old Wyatt back down. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Travis in Texas, and rode with the 7th when Custer went down.
This is the last cowboy song, the end of 100-year war. The voices sound sad as they're singing on
another piece of America's lawn.
Remington showed us how he looked on canvas, and Louis L'Amour has told us his tale. Me and Johnny and Waylon and Chris sing about him and wish to God we could have ridden his trail.
This is the
old Chisholm Trail is covered in concrete now, and they truck them to market in 50-foot rigs. They roll by his marker and don't even notice it. Like living and dying is all they ever did.
This is the last cowboy song, the end of a 100-year war. The voices sound sad as they're singing along, another piece of America's lawn.
The Highwayman. What an awesome project from Willie, Waylon, Chris Christopherson, and Johnny Cash. Well, that's going to wrap up our first hour of this edition of the Icons of Outlaw Country, keeping outlaw music alive for you. Now, y'all stick around because next hour, we still got our Most Wanted Outlaw of the Week, and I really think you're going to love what we got planned. My name is John Wesley Karson. We'll be right back.
And for those who somehow lost their way or think we've seen our better day, this old outlaw's here to say we're alive.
Welcome back as we bring you the exciting and adventurous music of artists from the past. Artists who dared to do it their own way and push the boundaries of country music further than ever before.
And for those who somehow lost their way or think we've seen our better day, this old outlaw's here to say we're alive.
These are the Icons of Outlaw Country. And now, here's John Wesley Karson.
Welcome back to the second hour of this edition of the Icons of Outlaw Country. Coming up later, we've got the Most Wanted Outlaw of the Week as chosen by you, our listeners. You know, we pick the Most Wanted Outlaw from your responses on our Facebook page each week, so be sure and follow me at John Wesley Karson on Facebook.com. That's Karson with a K, by the way. You can also email me as well at johnwesleykarson@gmail.com. You know, one of the most vital aspects of a good country song is the story it tells. And few songwriters are as good at telling a story as those in the outlaw movement. Now, when it comes to the finest songwriters of the genre, you cannot ignore Guy Clark. And he's the subject of this week's Songwriter Spotlight. Now, Guy was a native of Moynihan's, Texas, and spent almost a decade in Houston as a part of the folk music revival going on in that city at the time. Now, eventually, he settled in Nashville, where he helped create the whole outlaw genre. Now, his songs like L.A. Freeway and Desperados Waiting for a Train helped launch his career and were covered by numerous performers, including Steve Earle and Jerry Jeff Walker. He wrote songs for Johnny Cash, Vince Gill, Bobby Bare, Steve Wariner, and Rodney Crowell. He also recorded and performed his own music, and this track is from his 1975 album Old Number One. It's called Let Him Roll. Here's Guy Clark on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Now he's a wino, tried and true, done about everything there is to do. And he worked on freighters, and he worked in bars, and he worked on farms, and he worked on cars. And it was white port to put that look in his eye grown men get when they need to cry. And we sat down on a curb to rest, and his head just fell down on his chest. He says every single day it gets just a little bit harder to handle, and yet. And he lost the thread, and his mind got cluttered, and the words just rolled off down the gutter. Well, he was elevator man in a cheap hotel in exchange for the rent on a one-room cell. And he's old, years beyond his time, no thanks to the world and the white port wine. So he says, son, he always called me son. He said life for you had just begun. And then he told me the story that I'd heard before, how he fell in love with a Dallas whore. Well, he could cut through the years to the very night that it ended in a whorehouse fight, and she turned his last proposal down in favor of being a girl about town. Now it's been 17 years riding line. He ain't been straight none of the time. It's too many days of fighting the weather, too many nights of not being together. So he died. When they went through his personal effects, in among the stubs from the welfare checks was a crumbling picture of a girl in a door, an address in Dallas and nothing more. The welfare people provided the priest. A couple from the mission down the street sang Amazing Grace. No one cried except some lady in black way off to the side. We all left and she's standing there, a black veil covering her silver hair. And old one-eyed John said her name was Alice, and she used to be a whore in Dallas. So let him roll, Lord, let him roll. Betty's gone to Dallas, rest his soul. Just to let him roll, Lord, let him roll. He always said that heaven was just a Dallas whore. Let him roll, Lord, let him roll. Betty's gone to Dallas, rest his soul.
Let Him Roll by Guy Clark, the story of a homeless wino, a drifter, whose life was marred by the disappointment and the disillusion of unrequited love. And only after his death is it clear that the woman that he pined for hadn't forgotten him after all, and all those years later was there to quietly mourn his passing. Guy Clark, a master storyteller. You know, in 1987, Texas Swing Masters, Asleep at the Wheel, released this Guy Clark tune, Blowin' Like a Bandit, on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Lord have mercy, land of Goshen, shades of gray out on the ocean. Don't you dare take that boat out to sea, for the high seas are running, you will sure enough be done in if you dare take that boat out to sea. 'Cause out there in the Gulf the wind is blowing like a bandit, and I'm talking about a hurricane, and your rigging will not stand it. There's an ill wind a-blowing, you better get back to your mooring if you dare take that boat out to sea. You better take a weather warning, you'll be shark bait in the morning if you dare take that boat out to sea. Better give up on that shrimping, or you might come home a-limping if you dare take that boat out to sea. You better not make one more drag, or you may wind up in a bag if you dare take that boat out to sea. 'Cause out there in the Gulf the wind is blowing like a bandit, and I'm talking about a hurricane, and your your rigging will not stand it. Lord of mercy, land of Goshen, shades of gray out on the ocean. Don't you dare take that boat out to sea. Ah!
The misfits and outcasts, the rebels and renegades of country music are all right here on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
I'm sitting on the fender of someone else's truck, drinking Old Crow whiskey and hot 7-Up out in the parking lot.
You can hear the band playing right through the walls. Ain't no cover charge, ain't no last call out in the parking lot.
Yeah, I love to see the neon dancing on the gravel, and I love to hear the pickup trucks as they come unravel. Some have given up, some have given in. Seems like everybody's looking for a friend out in the parking lot.
Whoops, there's a couple who could not wait to get home.
They're probably in love, so let's leave them alone out in the parking lot.
There's a couple of cowboys putting up their dukes,
but there weren't much to it after both of them puked out in the parking lot. Yeah, I love to see the neon dancing on the gravel, and I love to hear the pickup trucks come unravel. Some have given up, some have given in. Seems like everybody's looking for a friend out in the parking lot. Now the band is on the bus, they're all loaded up to leave, but the drummer's got a girlfriend and she's tugging on his sleeve out in the parking lot. Yeah, I love to see the neon dancing on the gravel. I love to hear the pickup trucks come unravel. Some have given up, some have given in. Seems like everybody's looking for a friend out in the parking lot. I'm sitting on the fender of someone else's truck,
drinking Old Crow whiskey and a hot 7-Up
out in the parking lot.
mainstream country artist could not ignore Guy Clark's brilliance. Guy's visually descriptive imagery of a night outside a local honky-tonk out in the parking lot was covered there by Brad Paisley and Alan Jackson on Brad Paisley's album Time Well Wasted back in 2005. You know, by far, Guy Clark's best friend was fellow singer-songwriter Townes Van Zandt. You might say Guy Clark was Ponchoed Van Zandt's lefty, and in 1972, Townes Van Zandt recorded this version of Guy Clark's Don't Let the Sunshine Fool Ya for the late, great Townes Van Zandt album.
Now me and this friend named Street Life Brown, we got a bottle of red and walked uptown, and one hand on the jug and one on time. He said, I'll bet you $1 against this next line. And I said, don't let the sunshine fool you, don't let the bluebirds tool you, don't let the women do ya, put your hand in mine. All advice is fine if you got a mind to listen to them that's got the time, but the muse will get you if you don't watch out. He's equipped to know what it's all about. Don't let the sunshine fool you, don't let the bluebirds tool you, don't let the women do ya, put your hand in mine. Off Annan Street in the afternoons, an easy way to get a tune, but the hard soap salesman, he said no dice. When I asked politely for a better price, he said, don't let that sunshine fool you, don't let them bluebirds tool you, don't let the women do you, put your hand in mine. Well, here's a song for you, child of mine. I hope you make it through this time. Get yourself a piece of that rainbow pie. No reason in the world that you can't get by. But don't let the sunshine fool you, and don't let the bluebirds tool you, and don't let the women do ya, put your hand in mine. Oh, don't let the sunshine fool you, don't let the bluebirds tool you, don't let the women do you.
In 2020, 4 years after Guy Clark's death at 74 years of age, a documentary film was released called Without Getting Killed or Caught. Now, the title was based on a line from his iconic song, L.A. Freeway. In it, the producers explore the true life and the music of Guy Clark based on the diaries of his wife, Susanna, who passed away from cancer in 2012. The film is narrated by Academy Award winner Sissy Spacek, voicing Susanna's narration that they transcribed from her diaries. Now, if you're a fan of Guy Clark's music, you really should go to withoutgettingkilledorcaught.com. You can watch the documentary there. And there are also clips available on YouTube as well. Now, before we move on, I'd like to play one final Guy Clark song for you. One of the finest he ever wrote, in my opinion. It is a true masterpiece of imagery. A song that paints a picture in your mind and tells a story about the house that Guy Clark used to live in. It's called Step Inside My House, and it's the first song that Guy Clark ever wrote. He wrote it in 1966. He and his first wife were living in a duplex in Houston's Montrose neighborhood. The imagery in the lyrics are similar in a lot of ways to the George Jones song from 1974, The Grand Tour, which was written by Nora Wilson, Carmel Taylor, and George Ritchie. You almost visualize everything that he sings about in the song as he gives you a tour of the inside of his house. Although Guy Clark played this song on stage several times at many events, he never officially recorded it for an album because, well, he considered it to be an unfinished work. In 1998, Lyle Lovett recorded it for an album and used it actually as the title track. He made a few minor changes to the song, but Guy Clark still considered it to be an unfinished song. It was the 7th album by Lyle Lovett, and in contrast to all of his earlier albums, populated mostly by songs written by Lovett himself, Step Inside This House was a double-length album of cover songs written by fellow Texans such as Robert Earl Keen, Michael Martin Murphey, and of course Guy Clark, among others. And even though Guy never considered it a completed song, he gladly gave Lyle Lovett permission to use it, and as a result, well, it's gained a kind of a cult following from musicians and songwriters, and has for years. Lyle went on to perform it numerous times in concert and on television shows like Austin City Limits. And while it would be easy for me to play the Lyle Lovett version for you, I thought I would share a very rare recording of it. So, from my personal collection, here's Guy Clark's basement tape recording, and to my knowledge, this version has never been played on the radio before. So sit back and enjoy a very rare recording of Guy Clark singing Step Inside My House on the Icons of Outlaw Country.
Step inside my house, babe, I'll sing for you a song. And I'll tell you about where I've been. It shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you all the things I own, my treasures, you might say. And there couldn't be more than $10 worth, but they brighten up my day. That picture hanging on the wall was painted by a friend. Gave it to me all down and out when he owed me 10. It's not too much to look at, but it's all that's left of him. It sure is nice from right over here when the lights are a little dim. So step inside my house, babe, I'll sing for you a song. And I'll tell you about where I've been. It shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you all the things I own, my treasures, you might say. And there couldn't be more than $10 worth, but they brighten up my day. Here's a book of poems I got from a girl I used to know. Guess I read it front to back 50 times or so. Now it's all about the good life and staying at ease with the world. You know, it's funny how I love that book and I never loved that girl. So step inside my house, babe, I'll sing for you a song. And I'll tell you about where I've been. It shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you all the things I own, my treasures, you might say. And there couldn't be more than $10 worth, but they brighten up my day. I hold this piece of glass up to the light coming through the door. It's a prism glass I found on the road. Can you see that little rainbow? Well, it's not really a prism, I guess. It just broke in a funny way. I found it on my way from Texas, headed for L.A. So step inside my house, babe, I'll sing for you a song. And I'll tell you about where I've been. It shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you all the things I own, my treasures, you might say. And There couldn't be more than $10 worth, but they brighten up my day. This guitar was given me by old man Thomas Gray. It's not too much to look at, but I pick it every day. It's been across this country 4 or 5 times, I guess. Between me and old man Tom, it never got much rest. So step inside my house, babe, I'll sing for you a song, and I'll tell you about where I've been. Shouldn't take too long. And I'll show you all the things I own, my treasures, you might say. And there couldn't be more than $10 worth, but they brighten up my day. That's about all I own, all I'd care to, I guess, except this pair of boots and that funny yellow vest. The leather jacket and the leather bag and the hat hanging on the wall, just so it's not too much to carry. Could I see you again next fall?
As you can tell, the song doesn't really have an ending, which is why Guy considered Inside My House to be an unfinished work. Rather than some big splashy ending, the song just sort of stops. But I see it the way Lyle Lovett did, as just too good of a song to be left to grow dusty on some shelf somewhere. Now, whether you consider Guy Clark a folk singer, an Americana artist, or an outlaw, none of that really matters, because regardless of what you call it, Guy Clark was a master songwriter and storyteller, and truly an icon of all genres. Now, coming up, we've still got our Most Wanted Outlaw of the Week, as determined by you. Just visit my Facebook page and send us a friend request at John Wesley Karson, that's Karson with a K, at Facebook.com, and send all questions or comments to my email at johnwesleykarson@gmail.com. We'll be right back with more of the Icons of Outlaw Country.
To the Icons of Outlaw Country. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Hang on to your cowboy hats and trucker caps. Here comes more music from the Icons of Outlaw Country. Time now for the Most Wanted Outlaw of the Week.
Our Most Wanted Outlaw, as always, is chosen by you, our radio listeners, from an informal poll on my Facebook page at John Wesley Karson. Now, we post the poll each Monday and give you 4 choices to pick from, and this week, well, it was unanimous. Our Most Wanted Outlaw is Waylon Arland Jennings, known by his alias Hoss. Waylon was born June 15th, 1937 on the J.D. Bittner farm in Littlefield, Texas. He started playing guitar at the age of 8 and performed at age 14 on KVOW radio, after which he formed his first band, the Texas Longhorns. Waylon left high school at age 16, determined to become a musician, and worked as a performer and a disc jockey on numerous radio stations in Texas and his adopted hometowns of Coolidge and Phoenix, Arizona. In 1958, Buddy Holly arranged for Jennings to record for the first time in Clovis, New Mexico. He recorded 2 songs for the Brunswick record label, The first was called When the Sin Stops, Love Begins, with Buddy Holly on guitar and King Curtis on saxophone.
Well, my fever gets higher than 104 every time you come through my door. You thrill me, honey, you fill me with desire.
Baby, don't stop.
Don't stop rolling those eyes. Don't stop telling those lies. It's not right, I know it's a sin. When sin stops, love begins. Don't stop.
Don't stop. Please don't stop.
Don't stop.
The flip side of When Sin Stops, Love Begins was a traditional Cajun waltz called Jolie Blanc, often called the Cajun national anthem because of its popularity in the southern Louisiana Cajun culture.
Jolie T, Jantidi, Jolie Ka, Malisi, Tomazi, the big and ugly shabby juju.
Then, on his manager's recommendation, Buddy Holly hired Waylon Jennings to play bass in the Crickets. We've all heard the famous story of how Jennings gave up his seat on the ill-fated flight in 1959 that crashed and killed Holly, the Big Bopper Richardson, and Ritchie Valens. In 1961, after moving to Phoenix, Arizona, Jennings formed a rockabilly/western band called the Wailers, consisting of Jerry Gropp on the guitar and Richie Albright on the drums.
Well, my baby used to stay out all night long. She made me cry, she done me wrong. Come home each morning telling me them same old lies, but now the table is turned and it's her turn to cry. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now. Oh yes, I used to love her, but it's all over now.
The band earned a local fan following and became the house band at the nightclub JD's in Phoenix.
She started running round every man in town, spending all my money, playing a high-class game. She would never change, no matter how I tried. But the tables are turned and it's her turn to cry. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now.
In 1965, RCA Records signed Jennings to a contract, but the conservative restrictions of the producers of the label didn't allow him to record with the Wailers, due to the Nashville custom of the time using session musicians instead of the performer's actual backup band. This was just the beginning of Waylon's frustrations with the way things were done in Nashville. Now here's one you might not remember. In late 1966, Waylon Jennings went into the studio and recorded his take on the John Lennon classic composition, Norwegian Wood.
I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. She showed me her room, isn't it good, Norwegian wood. She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere. So I looked around and I noticed there wasn't a chair. I sat on the rug, biding my time, drinking her wine. We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for bed.
Waylon's version of Norwegian Wood on the RCA album Nashville Rebel was an early example of the direction that Waylon Jennings was headed musically. The twangy guitar picking was a natural for replacing George Harrison's sitar, and the almost funeral march beat became a staple of Jennings' style for years to come.
She told me she worked in the morning and started to laugh. I told her I didn't, then crawl off to sleep in the bath.
For years, Waylon continued to watch his career stagnate. Oh, sure, he was recording, but not with his band, and not all the songs or style of music that he wanted to record. The songs, the musicians, the image, everything was handpicked by RCA executives, the record producers and publicists, all taking creative and artistic control away from him. In 1968, Jennings recorded the RCA album Only the Greatest, produced by Chet Atkins, and with Wayne Moss on guitar rather than Waylon, his only job was to sing the songs selected for him. Now, it did produce Waylon's first big hit record, though, Only Daddy That'll Walk the Line. The song spent 18 weeks on the Hot Country Singles charts, peaking at number 2 and holding that peak for 5 weeks. But he wasn't happy.
Everybody knows you've been stepping on my toes, and I'm getting pretty tired of it. You keep a stepping out of line and I'm messing with my mind. If you had any sense, you'd quit. 'Cause ever since you were a little bitty teeny girl, you said I was the only man in this whole world. Now you better do some thinking, then you'll find you got the only daddy that'll walk the line.
Waylon's career just wasn't going the direction that he wanted it to. And about that same time, he noticed a shift in the way rock music artists were handling their careers, with bands like The Doors and The Byrds and artists such as Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix all gaining control of their recording projects, with many of the same labels that were stifling country artists. As David Allan Coe famously said in his 1977 song, Willie, Waylon and Me,
they say the Beatles were just the beginning of everything music could be.
Yes, the Beatles had really changed everything in the early to mid-60s. Up until then, even rock artists were being controlled by the labels, producers, and publicists. But it wasn't handed to them on a silver platter. They had to fight for it. And that's exactly what Waylon did. Finally, in 1972, Waylon Jennings renegotiated his contract, and he included the Wailers for the first time on an RCA album entitled Honky Tonk Heroes.
Where does it go? The good Lord only knows. Seems like it was just the other day. I was down at Green Gables, hawking them tables, generally blowing all of my hard-earned.
He was also given the choice of what songs he was going to record. In fact, almost every song on that album was written by an obscure and little-known songwriter named Billy Joe Shaver and produced by Tompall Glaser in his studios in Nashville. And so it began. Outlaw Country was born. And while it was born in a Nashville recording studio, it thrived in the city of Austin, Texas, at a night spot called the Armadillo World Headquarters. Around the same time, Waylon Jennings was spreading his wings at RCA Records. His good friend Willie Nelson was doing something very similar at Columbia Records. And it was just beginning.
Where do it go? The good Lord only knows. And it seemed like it was just the other day. I was down at Green Gables, hawking them tables, and generally blowing all of my hard-earned pay. Well, Mighty Roll Blues, dance toes in the shoes. There weren't another way to be. For them lovable losers and no-account boozers and honky-tonk heroes like me. Yeah.
Jennings followed Honky Tonk Heroes with Dreamin' My Dreams and Are You Ready for the Country? he was finally writing his own songs like Bob Wills Is Still the King and Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way? Waylon Jennings had finally found his voice.
Lord, it's the same old tune, fiddle and guitar. Where do we take it from here? Rhinestone suits and new shiny cars. It's been the same way for years. We need to change. Somebody told me when I came to Nashville, son, you finally got it made. Old Hank made it here. We're all sure that you will, but I don't think Hank done it this way. No, I don't think Hank done it this way. Look at.
Now, during the 1970s, Jennings drove the big old outlaw country bus with Willie Nelson, Tompall, Glaser, and Jesse Coulter along for the ride as they recorded country music's first ever platinum-selling album, Wanted, The Outlaws. And the opening track exemplifies the independent spirit of the movement. My heroes have always been cowboys.
I grew up a-dreaming of being a cowboy, loving the cowboy ways, pursuing the life of my high-riding heroes. I burned up my childhood days. I learned all the rules of a modern day drifter. Don't you hold on to nothing too long. Just take what you need from the ladies, then leave them with the words of a sad country song. My heroes have always been cowboys, and they still are, it seems, sadly in search of one step in back of themselves and their slow-moving dreams. Cowboys are special with their own brand of misery from being alone too long. You could die from the cold in the arms of a nightmare, knowing well your best days are gone. Picking up hookers instead of my pen, I let the words of my youth fade away. Old worn out saddles and old worn out memories with no one and no place to stay. My heroes have always been cowboys, and they still are, it seems, sadly in search of and one step in back of themselves and their slow-moving dreams.
It was followed in 1977 by Old Waylon and a song that everyone came to know and love, Lukenbach, Texas.
The only two things in life that make it worth living is guitars that tune good and firm feeling women. Now, I don't need my name in the marquee lights. I got my song and I got you with me tonight. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, with Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' pain songs and Lou
songs and blue eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. So baby, let's sell your diamond ring, buy some boots and faded jeans and go away. This coat and tie is choking me, and in your high society you cry all day. We've been so busy keeping up with the Jones, 4-car garage and we're still building on. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, with Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' pain songs and Newberry's train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain.
Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, William, Waylon, and Boy. This successful life we're living's got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between the Hank Williams pain songs and Jerry Jeff train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, there ain't nobody feeling no pain.
Waylon Jennings' Outlaw Country concept is a 100% American story, a story of the fight for freedom, independence, and the celebration of the individual. Waylon Jennings' story is like a plot from an Ayn Rand novel, the story of a man who realizes his potential and learns to fully embrace his individuality as he creates his music. And his music challenges the stifling collectivism of the city that he calls home, and which forces him to flee from that city. A man who realizes the potential and learns to fully embrace his own individuality as he creates his music his way. And his music challenges the stifling collectivism of the city that he calls home, and which forces him then to flee that city. A story about how conforming to societal standards was a struggle he could no longer endure, and how he breaks the chains that confine his creativity and achieves success, and the redemption pays off in the end, not just for him, but for all of those artists that follow. And that, my friends, is the legacy of Waylon Jennings. On February 13th, 2002, Waylon Jennings died in his sleep from complications of diabetes at his home in Chandler, Arizona. He was only 64 years of age. Waylon's spirit and soul lives on in so many artists today, such as Travis Tritt, who recently paid tribute to Waylon for his 85th birthday celebration at the Rebel Ranch in Ashland City, Tennessee.
One of my biggest heroes was a guy by the name of Waylon Jennings. I loved everything about him before I ever met him. I loved his singing voice, I loved his songwriting, I loved his guitar picking. But one of the things I loved the most about him was he was one of those guys that was going to do things one way and one way only, and that was his way. And without even realizing it, he opened up a lot of doors for people like me, because when I first came to Nashville, all I wanted to do was do my music my own way as well. Waylon was such a good friend, and he gave me a lot of encouragement when a lot of people were calling me all kinds of names because I just wanted to do things my own way. And he told me the first time I ever met him, he said, you know what? He said, everything they're saying about you is exactly what they said about me and Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, and Hank Jr., and a whole lot of other people. He said, don't worry. He said, those people that are saying all those things about you on those radio stations or in those magazines or wherever, he said, those people, they don't pay a dime for their music. So they don't count. He said, the only people that you should be worried about are the people that go out and work hard 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week, and they're willing to spend some of that hard-earned money to buy your music when you put out new product, and occasionally pay for a concert ticket to come see you live. And that just took a whole lot of weight off of me right off the bat. Because I loved him so much, and I know for a fact that he loved me, I'd like to do my own little tribute to my buddy Waylon. Well, cowboys ain't easy to love, and they're harder to hold. They'd rather give you a song than diamonds of gold. Long stop-barreled buckles and old faded Levi's, and each night begins a new day. And if you don't understand him and he don't die young, he'll probably just ride away. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. 'Cause they'll never stay home, they're always alone, even with someone they love. Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm. It beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curve, yeah, flattening the hill. Someday the mountain might get them, Lord never will. Making their way, the only way they know how. Yeah, but that's just a little bit more than a love of love. Let's on. Making their way, the only way they know how. Yeah, but that's just a little bit more than the law of love. Just a good old boy, they wouldn't change if they could. Yeah, they're fighting the system like two modern day Robin Hood. I love you, Waylon Jennings. I miss you, Hoss.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little show, and will tell all your friends about us. I'd like to invite you back next week, same time, same channel, for more from the Icons of Outlaw Country.
The outlaw's still alive.
Our producer is Danny Daniels. The sound engineer is Michael Kane. Head of our research team is Sophia Mackey. Our writers are Marvin and Lucy Gray. Our announcer is Harry May, and our theme music is by W.B. Vaughn.
And for those who somehow lost their way or think we've seen our better day, this old outlaw's here to say for a while.
Until next we meet, either on the radio, in a smoky honky-tonk, or on the road. Remember, always be unique. My name's John Wesley Karson. and may God bless.
Yes, for those who somehow lost their way or think we've seen our better day, this old outlaw's here to say we won't die.